Hey guys, Avery Carl from the Short Term Shop here. I wanted to welcome you into our 10-episode deep dive on the Outer Banks and Carolina Beach, but also to let you know that we have some supplemental materials to this on our website for you guys. It's called theshorttermshop.com, and there we have a section where you can look at properties in these markets, see what the current purchase prices are. You can set it up to save a search for you and email you anytime a new property in those markets in your price range comes out. We also have the AirDNA data, thanks to our friends over at AirDNA for this market. So you can use those two things to analyze. We've got a calculator for you there too to help tie it all together. And if you guys are ready to maybe start talking to an agent in this market, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we will connect you to our expert agents in this market. Or maybe you're not ready to do that, but you just want to hang out with us more, and that's cool because we want to hang out with you too. And we have a Facebook community where you can do that. It's called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same title as my book. And it's just a community of 60,000 of our closest friends who are sharing best practices and just kind of hanging out with other real estate investors. So it's pretty cool. We hope to see you over there. And last but not least, if you have questions, you want to talk to a real person like myself, it will be myself actually, and Luke. We have an open office hours every Thursday, and you can sign up for that at strquestions.com, and you can ask us any questions that you have about short-term rental investing. But now we'll get to the episode.
Here we are, Carolina Beach, North Carolina beaches, all the way from the top of the Outer Banks down to almost all the way to Myrtle Beach in another state. But we're covering the whole thing. And today we're going to talk about what to buy with Cashflow Carl and Joe and Meg, who are agents, and Kelly, who's a short-term shopper and owns the proper markets. So it's great to have her on as a guest as well. Kelly, tell us a little bit about you. What do you have and where are they?
Okay. I have a 2-2 in the Smokies that we picked up in 2022. And the beginning of this year, we picked up a 1-1 in Carolina Beach.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So 1-1, I like that. I like small properties, but guys, Joe, Meg, talk to me about locations. There's a very large space of, ground to cover here in both of your markets. How do you even narrow it down? Like, does an investor come to you with a dollar figure and you narrow it down to that area, or do a lot of times do they have in mind, or are they from Colorado and have no idea what you're talking about? Give us a brief rundown.
Yeah, absolutely. So brief rundown is typically whenever an investor comes to us or at least comes to me in my market, they're looking at it from a cash on cash return standpoint or from a purchase price. And so from there, we can really help them guide into what type of asset they can buy. So in my market, that we've got condos, townhouses, and single family homes, which all range from different price points. And so honing in on what they can buy and marrying it with what they want to buy, and then having the two together. And so it's a really great way to find someone an incredible deal, because we've got like you're saying, such a wide range of places that they can buy that we can really hone in on the individual deal and then pick and choose which markets we want to be in based off of any other values that they have. Like if they want to come down and enjoy it with their family, if it's not just cash on cash returns, some clients will have a beach they just absolutely love. If that's the case, we're going to target on that. If it's all about the numbers, we can look all the way up the coastline and find them the best deal.
I would say that's probably the same for the Outer Banks. We do get people who have never been here. But I've got a lot of information just to share about the Outer Banks, from statistics to a calendar of events, of things that are happening here, what drives guests to visit with us here. But I would say what Joe, it duplicates here in that, budget really is going to drive what people are going to buy. That's a big part, but in much like Joe's market, where he's got so many different beaches, there's so many townships here. And in the lay of the land here on the Outer Banks also is, from Corova and Corolla, it's pretty narrow up there. And then as you go south, the berth of the island actually just gets wider. So which allows a lot of variation in the budget of the price of the housing. So, you can still find something that is very rentable on the west side of the bypass that splits the east and west side of the islands. There's always going to be something here for everybody. But I would agree with Joe that for my buyers, it really is pretty budget driven.
And just to be perfectly clear, you guys do not consider these the same area, right? I mean, if I'm just hearing about this area for the very first time, I do want to be very clear that we're basically just kind of lumping them in for the sake of time on this podcast. But you guys, Joe and Meg and Kelly, you live not far from this area. They're not, right?
I'm curious to hear Kelly's answer to that.
No, they're not near each other. It's going to take, if I want to go to Outer Banks, it's going to take me at least 5 hours to get there from here.
From where you live.
Yeah, from Carolina Beach.
So you're a buyer who also intends to use your property. So we've got people like from, like Utah, Colorado, New England, Florida that come up here that, they're not necessarily using their properties. We talked about how they're different markets. Like how do you feel about them? Because you were like adamantly, you're like, yes, they're very different markets. I'm curious, like from a buyer's perspective, how they're different.
For me, I think Outer Banks, I think big time seasonality. I think big beach houses, families are going to go there every summer. You're going to rock it out of the park during the summer, but it may not be as easy to make money during the off season. And correct me if I'm wrong. Versus Carolina Beach, we're not that far away from Wilmington. So I think there's a little bit more of a draw in the off season. And the fact that I have a small place.
Right.
I know I'm always going to book it.
You like high occupancy, I'm guessing, right? With the 2 seconds that I've chatted with you here, it seems like that's kind of the goal.
I'm a fan, yes.
Right. Okay, cool. Meg, are there small properties in your market?
There are small properties. I think a lot of people get nervous about the idea of buying a condo because instantly their brain goes to really high HOA fees. I think that when people are considering a condo, what's important to think about is first of all, it's going to get you, a lot of the condos are going to be up on the ocean. So you might get an oceanfront condo, that you can get for less than $500,000. You are going to have an HOA fee, but keep in mind that, like your CapEx expenses, a lot of that's going to be covered, like your roof, the parking conditions, the roads, all the common areas, the pool, the landscaping, all of that's going to be covered in your HOA, where you're not going to have to calculate those expenses when you're doing your analysis because it's already included. But then like when I was talking about the division of the bypass between the west side and the east side. You can easily find a lovely, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, beach box that's darling that you can clean up, update. Yes, you need to drive your car across the bypass, which I do highly recommend people use that beach parking and don't walk across. But yeah, you can absolutely find lovely properties that they're going to rent. Everything here rents. Again, we have 37,000 primary residents here and 250 to 400,000 guests coming and going in the high season. There are a lot of properties to rent. People want to be here, and we've got a lot of people coming in.
Yeah. And Luke, like kind of going back to the differences between them. This is something that I love so much about North Carolina is that you can be in the mountains, you can be in the beach, and you can just from the differences between our different beach markets, like the Outer Banks is such a different feel than the beach markets that I'm personally covering down here, the southern beaches. And they all have their own unique cultures and they're all incredible places to go. And so North Carolina is just a really incredible state to experience all these different things because, within 5 hours, you can be at a completely different area that feels totally different and has its own unique qualities. And so it's just an awesome place to invest across the board.
Okay, wonderful. So different markets. Long story short, just in case, because we are talking about a very big space here, long drive to get talking about today to the bottom. Am I looking for something that needs doesn't need worry above what is kind of the bread and butter property in the area?
Joe, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So bread and butter, again, is going to depend on your individual price point. But my favorite bread and butter is going to be somewhere in that 4-bedroom beach house that's going to start somewhere in that 700,000 range all the way up to about 1.5. And you're talking 1 to 2 blocks from the beach. Like the real key is easy beach access. And so thinking about it from a renter that wants to come stay with you, it's how easily can I get there? Because that's the main draw here. The main draw for all these beaches is we got to get our family to the beach and enjoy it. And if you're more than a 4-bedroom, you're talking larger groups of people coming through, which is going to be a shorter occupancy or less occupancy, higher total annual income. Now, again, one of my favorite things is I love my small beach properties. So the largest one that I have on the beach is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And because I'm really shooting very similar to Kelly, like I love the high occupancy. I love people coming in the shoulder seasons and just having people rolling through. And so you can do it a little bit each way, but the bread and butter property typically around here is the larger, more traditional beach house, 1 to 2 blocks from the beach.
What year was it built?
Which ones?
Just a house that you go look at.
It depends. I mean, like I've got some of my smaller ones, like I've got a 1930s cottage, which is really cool. It's a experience, but then I also have stuff that's all the way up into the 80s construction. I've got new builds that are happening, but we have a lot of new builds happening now. And so really anything past kind of 2012 marking up tends to be a little more desirable.
Okay. And Meg, what about you? Age of property runs the gamut, or what do you see on a regular basis?
I think that your bread and butters here are also going to be probably in the 4 to 5 bedroom range. I don't think you need to be oceanfront or semi-oceanfront. I mean, I think even if you're 4 or 5 rows back, depending on the orientation of the house, how the house is facing the road that runs east to west, those lots are only 50 feet. So if you think about if you have to go 4 or 5 houses, it's really not that long of a walk to carry your wagon or bring your umbrellas and your coolers. 4 bedroom is probably the sweet spot. I will agree with Kelly's point about seasonality, but only with those big, like 9+ bedrooms, because that is when the big families with all of the children and everybody's coming. I absolutely agree that those, you're going to have more seasonality with those. The smaller ones, though, you're going to have groups of adult friends that are coming that maybe they don't have children yet, or those who have retired and they're empty nesters. Those folks are going to come off season, and those 3-4 bedroom houses are also going to do really well. And age, me, what Joe was saying about, that he's got a cottage from the 1930s. I've got buyers who say, I don't mind find something and fixing it up because, first of all, I want to make it mine. That doesn't scare me. I want it to be lovely. So, you're going to see cottages, maybe, probably not as far back as Joe's go, but you're going to find stuff in the 60s and 70s and all the way up to 2022.
Okay. Updates. Do I need to update? Can I rent it as it is? Do they come updated? What are we looking at as far as sexiness inside the home?
Here, that's going to be part of, it's going to fall in your budget. So obviously if an owner is selling a house that is more updated, it's going to, they've already taken that. You're walking, it's ready to go, turnkey. Furniture has been updated. No carpeting. That's always kind of a strange thing to have, at a beach house. But you're going to have a mix. But again, that's going to be where your budget's going to fall in line, and then how much you want to put back into your unit. Those houses might stay on the market longer, and you have a little bit more bargaining power. It's dated compared to these other houses, and you might be able to get it for under asking what they're asking and what they're expecting to get for it, because something else just sold for a whole lot more that was updated and shiny. So,
well, Kelly, that's what I loved about the one that we did together, is like you really fell into all of these principles we're talking about, like easy beach access. You had an incredible view of the ocean, and I mean, your house was about as turnkey as it possibly could get. I mean, like the renovations on it were just incredible.
Yeah, we might have changed some pillows and some bedding, but that was it. It was easy from the close date to the go live date. It was very seamless.
Is that what you were looking for, or you just kind of fell into one and it happened to not really?
I actually wasn't really looking, period. I met Joe at a networking event, and we had a place in the Smokies, and we were kind of like, do we want to get another place in the Smokies, or do we want to do some long-term, mid-term? And then I was talking to Joe, and I was like, Joe, I really like the beaches, but I'm so scared of hurricanes. And he's like, that's what insurance is for. It's the same thing with the Smokies and the fires.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you're right. So then, I don't know, like maybe 2 days later, I saw a property on realtor.com, and I sent it to Joe, and I'm like, Joe, I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but I really like this property. Can we go see it? And so we did, and we put in an offer in right away.
Awesome. Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Joe, I want to buy a house now. Okay. So,
come on.
So yeah, it sounds like yours was ready to go, nice and easy, which doesn't have to be the case, but it worked out in your situation. That's cool. What about theming? it's gaining popularity in a lot of markets, but I'm not really seeing it in where I live on the beach. But are you guys seeing it there?
I'm not, and that kind of falls in line with the whole. I have a theory about North Carolina that we're about 10 years behind all the trends. All the trends kind of start in California and then they end here in North Carolina. And so, I mean, we're just now starting to see the trends like with higher performing properties with pools and whatnot. Like I know that's super popular up in your market, Meg, but like a lot of the beach markets here that I'm covering in the southern part of North Carolina, we haven't even had pools. And I'm just now seeing, especially some of our more keystone markets like Ocean Isle, Surf City, places like that, where if you have a pool, not only are you going to blow your numbers out of the water, but you're going to do incredibly well, even in kind of the whole, if you have like some form of down season. It's like the people who are really putting the money into the additional amenities are the people who are still performing incredibly well.
You're not going to find walls with murals. I like what Kelly did, that she could go in and put in, fresh linens and fresh pillows and just kind of brighten it up a little bit. Just to me, what you're going to find here and what people are looking for is they want clean. They want it to be clean. They want it to be fresh. They don't want a dishwasher from 1986. They want, those types of amenities. They want those features to be updated. But you're going to have little, artwork, wall art, and, little nautical themes here, and maybe a little bit of, it's a crab here and a starfish there, but you're not seeing major theming, I don't think, in any of these places. You want to provide, being outdoors at the beach, even if you don't have like a game room, if it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a big living room, dining room, kitchen space, and then maybe an outdoor shower. Have an outdoor space if you can. If you've got, a carport underneath, make that into like a hangout spot where people can play, the cornhole game or put an outside TV out there, a little tiki bar. But that's as far as theming goes. Like that's about as far as people are gonna take it here.
Yes, you are 100% right, man. How much sand are you going through in those towels in your clothes? In the wet and dry, wet and a nice washer and dryer to you everywhere on the beach.
Agreed.
That's just me. That's just me. But it really works. Is everywhere I go areas going to be short term? Are there certain areas that are like HOA kind of like mega neighborhoods with pools and things like that, or what are we looking at there?
The pools here, some of the subdivisions do have a pool house and a clubhouse, and you do have to pay to get in. Some have HOAs. Really, you see the majority of the HOAs here with your condos. Some subdivisions do have an HOA that go along with it, but a lot here don't. Just kind of is a nice thing.
Yeah, it's not kind of like the Florida market. Like the Florida markets, you have those really, really large, massive HOAs that have everything under the sun that you can possibly imagine, with just towers of condos. We don't have really anything like that. It's smaller condo developments, it's single family homes, it's individual communities, where you might have like a small group of 30, 40, 50 houses that have, again, a pool house and a pool. And some of them are even optional to opt into. There's a really cool neighborhood down in Ocean Isle that I love, that you can opt in to have the pool or not. It's like $700 a year. And so it's not these mega ones with the super high HOAs. Just don't really see anything like that around here.
What about to area locations, if I want to get my kids to the museum and things like that, because a lot of times you can't really tell how far certain things are on a map, so if I want to stay within 5 miles, can I do that, or are there certain areas where I got to drive quite a bit? I would imagine it's all of the above, but
yeah, it's all the above.
Yeah. I mean, the Outer Banks, we're 130 miles of coastal shoreline. So you're going to, and we're long and skinny. So if you're staying up in Corolla and you want to go see the lighthouses down on Pea Island or Body Island, it's going to be a drive. But there's so many things in between, and you'll have townships that are very small and quaint, and then you're going to have others that are much larger, and it's going to be much more commercial and restaurants and putt and all of the to-dos. So you're probably going to drive, but it's basically one road. It goes north and south, and so you're not going to get lost, and you'll probably find something else awesome to do on the way to the destination that you're set out to do. And
if you're thinking like where Kelly's is, for example, like hers is in a fantastic spot where you can get to all these different things right there. Like Kelly, if you wanted to expand on that, of just like, there's so many draws of this little market.
Yeah, so where our condo is, we're a 2-minute walk to the beach, but we're also right between the beach and the canal. So we get the best of both worlds there. And then we are on what's called the north end of Carolina Beach, which is more of a quiet end of Carolina Beach. But we're only a mile from the boardwalk, where there's lots of things for families to do, lots of restaurants and rides and everything like that. But we're like 20 miles from downtown Wilmington, where there's more of a historic presence, where you would find your museums and your, we have our big battleship there, and there's lots to do. We're not that far away from the aquarium. There's just really a lot that is close, but it's not necessarily walkable. The things that are like a mile, we have a pier that's a mile, like the boardwalk is a mile, which is walkable, but everything else you're going to have to drive to, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah. And that's specific to like Carolina Beach. Like if you went and bought in Holden, like the next thing that you're going to do in Holden is you're just taking your family to the beach. Like that's what you're there for. You're there for the family time. And so it, like similar to Meg's, it's just going to depend on which area you buy in. And so just know your buy box. If you want people to be within, 5-10 minutes of other fun things to do with their families, you're going to need to like really hone in on which beach you want to be at.
We mentioned pools. Any of the homes in your areas have pools? Do I have to have a pool? Are they getting more popular, less popular?
We actually, the higher end houses here, obviously, those are going to have a pool. Outer Banks market. The properties that don't have a pool, you'll just need to check with your township or the county, probably the township, just to get, you'll have to provide your kind of septic layout and see if you can get, if a pool can be put in, depending on the footprint of the house that's on that, the land lot size. But you're probably looking, if you're going to add a pool, you're looking at probably $40,000 to $70,000, depending on what you're wanting to put in. You don't have to have a pool, but again, when you start getting into those bigger houses that you're in a 5-6+ bedroom house, the ones that have pools, those are going to get rented first. Again, everything here rents, but how quickly you fill up your calendar, you're going to get picked up. But, as the season starts to slow down a little bit, people are going to want the house with the heated pool and the hot tub. Not required, but on those higher end houses, it's probably expected.
100% agree. It's becoming more and more prevalent in this market. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the shift that we're seeing is, if you, again, like we talked about earlier, if you have the heated pools and you have the hot tubs, you're going to demand a premium and you're going to stay booked for longer. And so it's definitely not going to hurt you.
Okay. Let's revisit the HOA thing. Revisit the HOA thing. Are they common? Is there a decent chance I'm going to be in an HOA or not?
For here, it's so subdivision specific. Up in Corolla, there seem to be more communal areas going to have an HOA. Your Currituck Club's going to have an HOA, but they also offer, the pool and the clubhouse, and the Currituck Club, they've got a golf course. They've got shuttle service that will run you back and forth to the beach. So, you get a lot for that fee that you're paying. And then the condos here are, you're always going to have an HOA fee with the condos. And then there are other little subdivisions that may or may not have it. But, when Joe and I pull up on our MLS, it is listed there in Paragon. It's when you can scroll down to the financials and it's listed HOA. And it tells you what annually you can expect to be paying. The numbers right there. It's easy to just populate when you're doing your analysis. And, you just got to look for it. Just know to look for it and put it in there when you're analyzing your properties.
Yeah. If you're buying a townhouse or a condo, you're always going to have an HOA. Now it depends on like the individual condo complex, if it's going to be really, really high and crazy, or if it's going to be a lot more reasonable. And so that's a local knowledge thing of just like, as you're seeing properties that are matching your buy box and being like, hey, like you might want to avoid this one. And no, I have great success with this one. And so just make sure you're chatting with your agent about that. But in general, most of the single family homes are not going to have HOAs around here.
Condos, townhomes, do they exist? Can I rent those? Do they make sense, or stick with the single families?
Kelly, how's your condo doing?
Fantastic. We went live at the beginning of February, and we've had at least 90% occupancy each month. And of course, our ADR gets better each month since we've gotten into the summer. But I anticipate that we're going to probably go gross 50K by the end of the year.
That's awesome.
Well done.
Absolutely
On a
crushing
1-1.
No,
Kelly,
purchase, I hate the price, shouldn't bring it up, but what was your purchase price?
350.
Oh my, okay. And you go there, right? You live fairly close, so you're also utilizing it?
Yeah, we haven't yet to actually stay here overnight because we have been fortunate enough to have high occupancy. But we'll come down on a Saturday or Sunday if there's a turn and just use the parking here is a little outlandish sometimes. So having that parking spot is gold. So we'll just use it to go to the beach, and then we eventually, probably in the off season, will actually enjoy it more.
Yeah, but you definitely can rent a condo and a townhouse down here for sure in these individual markets.
Okay. But a single family home, would you say that you sell more of those? Is it on a daily basis? Are you seeing mostly single families?
Mostly, yeah. At least in this market, like a majority of ours are single family homes, but it's definitely doable. And so if it's a common place for people to start, and then as they grow and move up, they can trade up into larger single family homes. And so that's the typical play.
I agree with Joe. On the Outer Banks, it's folks who still really do want to be on the east side of that bypass, that they're not crossing that busy highway. They can even have the opportunity to be upfront, beachfront rather, but still kind of keep it below 600,000, 500,000. You can still find that opportunity by buying a condo.
Okay, great. Well, listen, I apologize for my spotty internet. I'm doing the best I can over here. I don't know why it's happening. Million megabits per second right now. But anyway, thanks for the hang, guys. We will be back for episode number 3. We're going to talk numbers. How much do these things make? How much do they cost? We'll be very vague on the subject, but we're going to do our best to help folks out. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Short-term show special episodes from the beaches of North Carolina.